those of you who say, Alan, you need to drink more water. Alan, why don't you drink water? Alan, it seems like all you drink is Zevia. Alan, why don't you drink more water? I do have water, and I do drink water. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really like to drink water, like from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, because I just don't like unflavored shit. The only time I can drink a lot of just regular water is after I eat foods that are real salty. That's the number one time I have a thirst for just regular water, is when either right after I finish working out, doing some cardio exercises, or when I've just finished eating some really salty type food. I drink a lot of water. But I do have, this is what's called Essentia. It's the highest pH balanced water you can buy, at least as far as I know. So at least 1/3 of what I consume per day is regular water. But I prefer, taste-wise, Zevia. And a lot of people think this drink is unhealthy, and it's really not. It doesn't have any artificial preservatives in it. It doesn't have any sugar in it. And the sweetener it has in it is considered a totally natural sweetener, which is stevia extract. Look it up, stevia extract. It's not harmful like aspartame or Splenda. Those two sweeteners are harmful to your system. This has stevia extract. And I love drinking it, and I ain't going to apologize for it. But I appreciate my listeners and followers who are concerned about my health, my overall health. That's very touching to me. I love that. So I'm not harshly criticizing you all who suggested that I drink more water, because I know you're just looking out for your boy, Alan Roger Currie. Excuse me. And let me do my little thumbnail pose. Now, speaking of that, I still, at least once every 5 videos I do, I have at least one person come in the comment section. Hey, Alan, I like your books, I like your videos, but why do you hold up these beverages in your videos? I don't get that. I mean, how does your beverages relate to your Mode 1 philosophy and your Mode 1 approach? It ain't got shit to do with Mode 1. I've told this story a million times, and I'm tired of telling it. But if you're a YouTube content creator and you start doing videos, when you do upload a video, YouTube will on its own automatically generate 3 what's called YouTube thumbnails. And they give you the option of uploading your own custom thumbnail. And the first, I want to say 2 to 3 YouTube videos I did, it started with my very first YouTube video, burp number 1, burp number 2. My first video podcast, I just held up my drink because I said, I love this beverage. It doesn't have any sugar. It was vitamin water zero. And YouTube automatically generated that as one of my thumbnails. And then I think the second video I did, I held up a beverage again. I said, here I go again, drinking my favorite drink, vitamin water zero. And then YouTube automatically generated that as one of my thumbnails. So beginning with my 3rd video podcast, I just kind of said to myself, well, since my first 2 videos, I went ahead and chose the thumbnail of me holding up the drink, I'm going to just make that my trademark. And that's what I've done since April of last year, April of 2017. I make holding up one of my favorite beverages as my thumbnail. But it ranges, it's ranged. I've held up probably at least 5 different beverages. Started out being mostly vitamin water zero. Then I've held out regular water a few times. In the last few months, though, it's been Zevia. Ever since, I want to say, January of this year, for pretty much the entire year of 2018, it's predominantly been Zevia. I love this stuff. One reason is because I love carbonation. I went as much as 12 to 13 years without drinking carbonated drinks. Yeah, from I want to say the entire calendar year of 2005 all the way up until the entire calendar year of 2017, up until the last week of December, I didn't drink any carbonated drinks. I just would drink juices, teas, and water. Juices, teas, and water. And then a close friend of mine named DeMario, who lives in Las Vegas, he introduced me when I was in Las Vegas working with a couple of my one-on-one face-to-face coaching clients. He introduced me to Zevia. Because he's type 2 like me. He has type 2 diabetes like me. And he said, you need to try this. And once I tried it, I said, man, I love this Zevia. Okay. This video is primarily going to cover Now, you notice I've done at least 2 videos, if not more, at least 2, that have covered misinterpretations and misconceptions to do with my Mode 1 approach. Misinterpretations and misconceptions to do with my Mode 1 approach. One video I did is that the misconception that a man has to use profanity or XXX-rated sexually explicit language in order to be Mode 1. And I explained in that video, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have, that's an Alan Roger Currie thing. And for those who thoroughly read my ebook versions, my paperback versions, and my audiobook, I already explained that. So I noticed I never really get that comment or misconception or misinterpretation from people who thoroughly read my books or thoroughly listened to my audiobooks, because I make it clear in my ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks that you do not have to use profanity or XXX-rated sexually explicit language to be Mode 1. Now, for those of you who keep up with all my ebooks, you know that I have an ebook called Mode 1 Hardcore. Mode 1 Hardcore. And that's where I separate what I would call regular Mode 1 from Mode 1 Hardcore. When you're going up to women and immediately saying something really XXX rated and explicit to them, say within the first 60 seconds or less of your conversation, I don't actually consider that Mode 1. I consider that Mode 1 Hardcore. And that's why I wrote a separate ebook for that. That's what I categorize as Mode 1 Hardcore, which, as you know from some of my stories I've told you, that I've done quite a few times. There have been women. See, I always tell you guys, and I'm going to do a little bragging, but see, I know how to read women's body language. Like, I know how to just look at a woman and tell if she's a kinky freak, even before I even talk to her. A lot of times I can just look at a woman and tell that I'll be able to fuck her like that same day, just by looking at her. Looking at the way she walks, her facial expressions, the way she uses her eyes, just everything about her body language. There's some women I can tell if I can fuck them fairly quickly. I can just tell. I talk about that in one of my books. I think my book, Upfront and Straightforward. Let the manipulative game players know what you're really thinking. Where's that book at? I don't have it near me. But yeah, in that book, I talk about, in one of the chapters, I say, one thing I'm known for among a lot of my close friends is that I'm exception. Did you all remember this show on CBS, if you live in the United States, called The Mentalist? The Mentalist? I used to watch that show. Well, I would loosely compare myself to the character on that show known as The Mentalist. what the concept of that show was, a lot of people thought that he was, I think his name was Patrick. Damn. You know me. It'll be on my mind if I don't look it up, so I got to look it up. I want to say the character's first name was Patrick. One second. You know me. And anytime I think of something that I can't remember the name or whatever. Okay, the actor's name was Simon Baker. Simon Baker. That was the actor's name who played the character. And his character's name was Patrick Jane. Patrick Jane. Yeah, the key to Patrick Jane was everybody who met him thought he was a psychic, but really he went on to explain that he was more of what's known as a mentalist, meaning that he had a keen ability to know things about people just from reading their body language. Like, for example, he could just look at a woman and talk to her for a couple minutes and know that she was the victim of incest or child molestation without her specifically telling him that. Or he could just look at a woman and say, "You've been divorced 3 times, haven't you?" And the woman would be like, "How do you know that? How do you know I've been divorced 3 times?" That's how keen his body reading skills were. He could just look at people and tell certain things about their past. He could tell certain quirks they had, certain addictions they might have, just by looking at them, or if not just looking at them, just by talking to them for maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. He would be able to know things about their past. He would be able to size up the type of person they are. Well, I would loosely compare myself to Patrick Jane, the character of Patrick Jane. I can look at women sometimes, and I can tell the type of woman that they are, particularly as it relates to, are they kinky or are they prudish? Like, I remember when I was in graduate business school, there was a handful of friends of mine that I got a reputation. I feel toothpaste. Do I have toothpaste on mine? Okay. Yeah, when I was in graduate business school and during the 1993-1994 school year, that was one of the times I got a reputation for reading people's body language, because a lot of times I would have friends that say there would be this couple near us, and one of my friends would say, "Hey, Alan, Joe and Diane just got together. Do you think they make a good couple?" And then I would just look at them, and I would say, "Nah, they're going to break up in like 2 months from now. And about a month and a half, 2 months from now, they're going to break up." And interesting enough, that couple would end up breaking up in like a month and a half or 2 months from that point when I said that. And my friends would be like, "Damn, how did you predict that like that?" Or like another couple, they showed me another couple, and I said, "No, that ain't going to last because he's cheating on her." And I wouldn't even know that for a fact. But I would be able to just look at him. I say, "He's cheating on her." And sure enough, it would come out that the guy was cheating on her. And my friends would be like, "Alan, how did you know that? How did you know he was cheating on her?" And I would just say, I could look at him. I could read his body language. Matter of fact, if I had to do a quick side note, I told this story a couple times on Blog Talk Radio. I don't know if I've told it on YouTube. I may have once. But I remember I used to date this woman seriously. A lot of people know who I'm talking about. She used to be a celebrity at one point. We dated from summer 2009 to summer 2010. And I did that with her at least once. She had this friend of hers that was married to this guy, and she kept raving about how great of a couple they were. She said, "Oh, that couple, they're such a great, you're going to love meeting them, Alan. They're such a great couple. They're such a great couple." That's all she said. So one night we go over to their crib, and I'm studying them. As we're talking to them, she's doing most of the talking. I'm not really doing that much talking, but she's doing most of the talking. And we're studying them. And so then as we're leaving, she picked up on the fact that I wasn't really saying much and that I was just kind of analyzing their behavior and their body language. And she was like, "Baby, why weren't you engaged in a conversation? Why didn't you say more?" I said, so this was the couple you was raving about? And she said, yeah. She said, why? You don't think they're great? I said, they ain't gonna last. She said, what are you talking about? They've been married for like, I can't remember how long they've been married at the time. I think they've been married for like 12 years, something like that. Maybe a little less. No, I think it was less than that. I think they've been married for maybe like 5 to 7 years. But anyway, I said, they ain't gonna last. And she said, why do you say that? They're a great couple. I said, did you see their body language? And she said, I didn't notice anything abnormal. But see, I picked up on some things. Initially, while we were talking, he was on the couch and she was at the piano. They had this piano. She was sitting on the piano stool. And then she came over and sat next to him on the couch. But then over a period of 5 minutes, he moved away from her. He moved away from her. Here's a body language tip for you if you're evaluating couples, man. See, one of the times you can tell that a couple is really, really into each other and they got genuine love for each other and their relationship is rock solid, they can't stop touching each other. They tend to be very touchy-feely with each other. They love being as close to each other as possible. That's what attraction is. True attraction, genuine attraction, is when you have two people that just love to be next to each other. I'm not necessarily saying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But generally, they enjoy each other's company and they like to smooch a lot. They like to be next to each other. If it's very easy for you to be apart from your companion, particularly if y'all in the same household, same room, that says something. That says something. Trust me, that says something. And anyway, I told my ex-girlfriend, I said, he moved away from her, which tells me one of two things. Either she's cheating on him and he knows it, or he's cheating on her and he feels so guilty that he can't even bring himself to put on the facade that he's really into her. And at the time, my ex-girlfriend said, oh, that's bogus. Get out of here. Guess what happened like roughly, I want to say 3 months later. Roughly 3 months after I told her that, those two ended up separating because he was cheating on her. He was a police officer and he was fucking his female partner at work. He was fucking his female partner at work. Sure enough. And she was like, damn, baby, I can't believe you were able to pick up on that in just one interaction with them. I tell y'all I'm a bad motherfucker. Here I go rubbing my balls again, as Tony Mason will say. But again, I say that in my book, man. I have a keen sense of reading people's body language, man. I knew that either he was cheating on her or that she was cheating on him. I knew it was one of the two. And sure enough, about 3 months later, yep, the wife found out that he was fucking his partner, man. He was cheating on her. I could sense that, man. Yeah, man, so that's a body language tip for you, man. If you got a guy, a man and a wife, a man and a woman that's supposed to be the husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, and if the guy comes and sits next to the woman, she kind of moves away, or the woman comes and sits next to the guy and he kind of moves away, there's some discord going on there. There's some guilt and or discord going on there. That's what that's about. So anyway, going back to my first misconception that I cleared up was about the X-rated language and profanity. Yet again, there's a difference between what I call conventional mode 1 and mode 1 hardcore. When you're going up to women and saying stuff like within the first 30 to 90 seconds of the conversation where you're using sexually explicit language and some degree of profanity, yeah, that means you're being mode 1 hardcore. But regular mode 1 is when you just simply let a woman know that you want to share her company in the near future and that you're not looking to engage in any type of interactions with her that are of a purely platonic nature or of a strictly non-sexual nature. That's mode 1 at its core. Like, the best example example I would give would be my older brother. My older brother, when he was mode one with women before he got married, he rarely, if ever, was mode one with women in an X-rated manner. Like he rarely was mode one hardcore. He was mode one in a PG-13 manner. Yeah, matter of fact, to this day, he doesn't really like the fact that I use a lot of like sexually explicit language with women in the very first conversation. That's actually something that me and my own brother have had philosophical battles about. Sometimes lighthearted, sometimes more serious. But he's not really a fan of using X-rated language with women in the very first conversation. Same with my mother and father. My mother and father, because they both read my early drafts of Mo 1. That was their one criticism. They were in favor of being upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest about your desires, interests, and intentions with women. But both of my parents, they frowned on the language component. They, like, particularly my mother. She didn't like the idea of me using X-rated language with women in the very first conversation. Her attitude was, you should save that for the bedroom. Once you actually in bed with a woman, then use the X-rated language. But she said, you shouldn't use X-rated language with a woman in the first conversation. Moms. Moms. No, but even my dad, to a lesser extent, he felt the same way. So it wasn't just women. My dad, he was kind of, well, here's what my dad said. My dad wasn't so much worried about me because he knew I was a smooth, seductive motherfucker. He was worried about young knucklehead men misinterpreting, which is what this video is about, misinterpretations. He was worried about young knucklehead men just kind of browsing through my book, not thoroughly reading it, and thinking that Mo 1 was simply representative of going up to a woman and in the first 5 seconds saying, hey, my name is Frank and I want to fuck the shit out of you. He was like, son, you're going to have some knuckleheads that are going to find themselves in some compromising positions because they haven't thoroughly read your book. And they're going to think that Mo 1 is just about going up to a woman and just blurting out some kind of sexually explicit request, which I've had happen. See, there's a lot of guys, man, they don't like to read. Or even with the audiobook, they don't like to thoroughly listen. Because again, I make it clear that Mo 1 is not just about walking up to a woman and immediately saying, hey, my name is Alan Roger Currie and I want to put my dick in your mouth. Now, I have said some sexually explicit shit with women right off the bat. I've had my story. But again, that's because I read those women. The women that I've done that with, I knew how to read their body language to a point where I knew that it was going to be effective. Not all men have those body language. Matter of fact, that's one of the things I provide for men when they hire me for one-on-one face-to-face coaching, is I teach men how to develop their body language reading skills better. I'm a master at reading women's body language. I'm a master at that shit. I know how to just look into a woman's eyes and know what type of woman she is. The eyes. Remember I said in one of my early videos last year, I said that in respect to both men and women. I said, one of the number one things I evaluate people by is how they use their eyes. Like, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to offend some people who wear sunglasses and shit. I don't trust people who always wearing, like, I'll concentrate on YouTube. There's a lot of people on YouTube who always wearing, like, sunglasses and shades. I'm going to generalize and say those are some shady motherfuckers, man. If you're watching somebody on YouTube, and number one, they never show their face on video, and if they show their face, they always got on sunglasses, I say don't trust those motherfuckers, man. Because, man, I'm telling you, man, you can read people with their eyes, man. You can read people with their eyes, man. People that don't allow you to read their eyes, I tend to look at as shady individuals. And I'm just going to keep it real. I know, again, some people are going to be offended by that generalization. But I look at people as shady individuals, man. Because that's one of the number one things I evaluate people by is their eyes and their voice. Their eyes and their voice. Whenever I meet people, man, that's the first thing I do, man. That's the first thing I do is I look them directly in their eyes. Everybody who knows me, has met me in person, will tell you that. Like, I've had women say, Alan, the thing I remember about when I first met you is that you looked me directly in my eyes. You like gave me this deep, penetrating stare into my eyes. And I've even had a few men say that. They say, Alan, man, when I met you, man, you had powerful eye contact. I always look people directly in their eyes, man. That's how I read you. So if I meet you in the future, you gonna know that's what I'm reading you, man, is when I look you directly in your eyes, man. That's how I read people. I can tell a lot about people, man, by how they use their eyes and how they use their voice. So I cleared up that misconception, misinterpretation. You do not have to use X-rated language or profanity to be mode 1. Again, here would be a simple example of being mode 1 with a woman without using any profanity or any X-rated language. Is after you introduce yourself to a woman, tell her, say, hey, I find you attractive. I find you very sexually appealing, but I got to let you know up front, I have absolutely no interest in engaging in any social interactions with you that are of a purely platonic nature. And for the purposes of this conversation, I have no interest in just having a friendly, flattering, entertaining conversation with you. I want to engage in an interaction with you that's going to help us develop, identify that if we have any romantic chemistry or sexual chemistry. And if we do, I want things to unfold from there. Boom! That's mode 1 without using profanity or X-rated language. Is you letting the woman know that you ain't just talking to her just to be talking to her. Because see, here's the thing, and I alluded to this in my last video about why verbalize your desires and sexual desires, interests, and intentions to women instead of trying to sub-communicate them. Women are always going to allow you to engage in conversations with them that are friendly, flattering, and entertaining. Always. Ain't no woman going to reject that shit unless you just come across as some kind of weird psycho or something. Women love to be flattered. They love to be entertained. They love for you to be emotionally empathetic to their problems, frustrations, and disappointments. And they love for you to perform financial and non-financial favors for them without them having to give up sex. Matter of fact, if you want to know the secret, not that many men ever ask me for, Alan, how do I accumulate more platonic female friends? I don't think I've ever had a man ask me that. But let's just say I did have a man ask me that. He said, Alan, I don't have enough platonic female friends. How can I get more platonic female friends? First thing I would tell that guy is, number one, all you got to do is read my book, The Possibility of Sex. Here's the 4 things you got to be if you want to accumulate more platonic female friends. Be exceptionally flattering. Be exceptionally entertaining. Be emotionally empathetic to women's problems, frustrations, and disappointments. In other words, be willing to be an emotionally empathetic listening ear to them whining and complaining about shit. And then finally, be willing to be very lenient and accommodating to the point where you always offering them financial and non-financial favors. Non-financial favor would be like you offering to help them move boxes from one apartment to their new apartment or one house to their new house. If you have those 4 characteristics, you ain't gonna never have problems attracting female platonic friends. Ever. Ever. Women don't turn down platonic companionship unless they think you're weird, creepy, or psychotic. So that was one. So far in my past videos, two of my last 3 videos, here are the 2, to recap, here are the 2 misinterpretations or misconceptions I've cleared up. One, again, is the whole X-rated thing and profanity thing. And then with my very last video about verbalizing your intentions, burp, number 3 or 4, I think. I can't remember. A lot of guys thought that the reason why I like to be verbally straightforward with women about my sexual desires, interests, and intentions is because I felt like that I had either some kind of impatient desire to have sex with a woman, or that I thought that was just the only effective way to get a woman to agree to have sex with me. And no, neither one. You can get a woman in bed, particularly if a woman is what I refer to as a reciprocator. You can get a woman in bed without verbalizing your sexual desires, interests, and intentions. The reason, at least half the reason why I made it clear in my last video that I'm verbally straightforward is more so to identify the manipulative time wasters of the world. That's who I'm trying to identify the quickest. And I've always said that for years. Out of my 4 archetypes, reciprocators, rejectors, wholesome pretenders, erotic hypocrites, and manipulative time wasters, I've always told my clients, when they ask me, they say, Alan, out of those 4, who would you say is your top priority for identifying? I always say manipulative time wasters. That's the #1 archetype of the 4 archetypes of women I talk about in my books that I want to identify the quickest, because I want to weed them out. Because if you don't do that, if you fail to do that, what you're going to find yourself doing is engaging in a lot of 15-minute conversations, 20-minute conversations, 30-minute conversations, 45-minute conversations, hour-long conversations, 2-hour-long conversations with women who are never, ever going to suck your dick, and they never, ever going to give you no pussy. Now, some guys, they don't mind wasting time like that. I've talked to at least a few guys. They say they don't have a problem wasting time like that. If you're a guy that doesn't mind wasting time, more power to you. More power to you. I'm not that guy. I don't like women wasting my fucking time. I've said before, I don't like men wasting my time. I don't like either women or men wasting my fucking time. I don't like engaging in what I call small talk or trivial chit chat. I can't say. Matter of fact, if you own my 1999 ebook version, my 2006 paperback version, and I'm not sure if I have that as my very first sentence in my 2017 updated ebook, but definitely in the 1999 and 2006 version of Mo 1, if you go to chapter 1, the very first sentence in that book is, I hate small talk. That's the first thing I say. In the very first sentence of chapter 1, I say, I hate small talk. I hate small talk. And that's one of the 2 things I'm going to address for the remainder of this video. Is because I had, in the last 24 to 48 hours, I had a couple people ask me, they said, Alan, it sounds to me that you only want to have sexually provocative conversations with women, but you have no interest in conversations that don't center around sex. Well, I'm a man who likes to talk to women about things other than sex. And I don't think you should limit yourself to just talking about sex. What am I about to do? Insert dog face here. See, that shows me that people don't listen to me carefully, and people, more so, it shows me that people have not thoroughly read my ebooks, paperbacks, or thoroughly listened to my audiobooks. I've never said that small talk or trivial chit chat is representative of any conversation that doesn't center on sex. And I dare anybody to point me anywhere in my books where I've said that. I've never said that. That is not the definition of small talk. In other words, there's a lot of non-sexual conversations you could have with a woman that's not representative of small talk. Here's what small talk is. And this is not only my definition, but this is pretty much the universal definition of small talk or trivial chit-chat. Anytime you're engaging in a conversation with somebody that's primarily designed to pass the time in an entertaining manner, pass the time in an entertaining and non-threatening manner, that means you're engaging in fluff talk, small talk, or trivial chit-chat. Is anytime you're engaging in conversation simply because you're bored and you want to pass the time in an entertaining and non-threatening manner, that means you're engaging in what's known as fluff talk, small talk, or trivial chit chat. I'll give you an example. I think most of you have probably attended at least one or two banquets or awards luncheon or an awards dinner or some kind of, somewhat fancy affair. And they usually have to, or like a wedding reception, for example, and would be another example, a wedding reception. And they have these designated tables. They'll have numbers or letters on them. Like say I might come into the event and they'll say, okay, Mr. Currie, you and your date will be at table 25. And let's say I go to table 25 and to my right is my date. To my right is my date. And say to my left is somebody I don't know. Somebody I've never seen before, I don't know. And let's say, we're just kind of sitting there. Let's say we're just kind of sitting there. Here would be an example of Alan Roger Currie engaging in small talk. Is when I look over to the person to my left and say, wow, we've had some great weather, haven't we? And the person says, we sure have. Yes, this has been wonderful weather. I mean, a couple weeks ago, it was raining a lot and thunderstorming, but the weather has been so fantastic. I just love it. So we spend 5 minutes talking about the weather. And then next thing you know, I might say, God, what about that movie, Avengers Infinity War? I've seen that movie 8 times. Wow, you saw it that many times? You must be a movie buff extraordinaire. Oh my God. And then we talk about the idea of going to the theater to see movies, and particularly multiple times. Okay, that's Alan Roger Currie engaging in pleasant and entertaining small talk, fluff talk. Because when that conversation ends, I'm not trying to exchange numbers with that person. I don't want to carry on the conversation beyond that interaction. I was just engaging in some pleasant, entertaining, and non-threatening conversation with that person just to pass the time. That's small talk. That's fluff talk. That's trivial chit-chat. You should, as a man, and particularly a single heterosexual man, you should never be engaging in fucking fluff talk, small talk, or trivial chit-chat with a woman, and you should never be allowing a woman to do the same with you. Unless you're just looking to be platonic friends with her. Now, if your objective is to be platonic friends with a woman, then I say by all means engage in fluff talk, small talk, and trivial chit-chat. But if your ultimate objective is to develop some degree of romantic chemistry with that person, or if not romantic chemistry, strictly sexual chemistry for the purposes of casual sex, what the fuck are you engaging in small talk for? I mean, seriously. Dude, I always tell people in my books, I do give men a grace period. I say, it's okay. I tell people in my books, my clients, that it's okay to engage in roughly 3 to 5 minutes of small talk. In general, I don't like small talk or trivial chit-chat at all, but I always do tell guys, I say, it's permissible if you call yourself Mo 1 to engage in as much as 3 to 5 minutes of fluff talk, particularly if you meet a woman that's accompanied by like a couple of girlfriends or something, or her brother and sister or something. But at roughly the 5-minute mark, that's when you should begin laying your desires, interests, and intentions on the table. In my opinion, at no later than the 5-minute mark, that's when you should begin laying your desires, interests, and intentions on the table. Now, I've heard some people who follow conventional PUA say, Alan, that's too short, man. You need more time to engage in comfort talk, in building rapport talk. You need to make a woman feel comfortable. I'm going to tell you something. 3 minutes is a lot longer than it sounds. 5 minutes is a hell of a lot longer than it sounds. Those periods of time sound like they're really, really short, but I guarantee you, I'm looking at my clock right now. If I was to stop talking for the next 3 minutes, it would seem like an eternity. Matter of fact, I'm gonna stop talking for the next 2 to 3 minutes, and I want y'all to see how long that is. Okay. Wasn't that excruciatingly painful for you to just watch me not say shit for 3 minutes? For all you guys who say that 3 minutes, that's too short. That's too short to build any type of rapport with women and get her to trust you and feel comfortable. Shit, that shit felt like a half hour to me. And that was just 3 minutes I was silent for. You telling me that you can't get a woman to feel comfortable in your presence in 3 minutes? You telling me you can't build rapport with a woman in 3 minutes? If you're unable to do that, that says more about you. You got some really ineffective conversation skills and social skills. I've built chemistry with women within 45 to 60 seconds after I met a woman. And I've had women say that. I've had many women that I've dealt with that have said, Alan, I felt like I had chemistry with you like within the first minute or two of my very first conversation with you. If you can't build chemistry with a woman in the first 5 minutes, even before you specifically lay out your desires, interests, and intentions to her, something's wrong with you. I'm serious. I'm not even saying that lightheartedly. You have significantly less than average social skills and verbal communication skills. So, to make that point clear, that's one misconception I'm clearing up, is that Small talk or fluff talk is not representative of simply having a conversation that's not centered on sex. For example, if you're talking to a woman about politics and you genuinely want to find out what type of person she is politically, that's not small talk. If you're thinking about a woman being your future girlfriend or your future wife, and you start asking her questions about does she like to cook and what type of food does she like to prepare, that's not small talk. That's relevant, because you know in your mind that you only want to date a woman or marry a woman who's willing to cook you some great tasting meals. Or let's say you talking to a woman that you know in your mind you only want to deal with a woman who puts a high premium emphasis on health and fitness. You don't want to marry a woman who's going to let herself just get fat and out of shape. So you spend 20 minutes talking to a woman about health and fitness and nutrition and her eating habits and exercise habits. That's not small talk. That's not fluff talk. That's relevant conversation, because that's part of your criteria for the type of companion you want to spend time with. So if you're talking about anything that's relevant to the type of personality characteristics and quirks that you want in either a short-term companion, long-term companion, monogamous companion, or non-monogamous companion, that's not small talk. That's relevant. That's what I call qualifying conversation. That's what I call qualifying conversation. That's to be distinguished from small talk. That's qualifying conversation. When you, particularly if you're talking to a woman that you know you want something long-term and meaningful with, like such as your next long-term girlfriend or your future wife. Speaking of that, and this will be my final thing I'll talk about and then I'll wrap up. One of my other ongoing misconceptions and misinterpretations of Mode 1, and I've had a few people say this to me privately or maybe publicly in the last 48 hours, is that, Alan, I usually get this from women, but I've had a few men say it too. People say, Alan, it sounds to me like Mode 1 is all about the pursuit of one-night stands and weekend flings and other variations of short-term non-monogamous casual sex. But it doesn't sound like Mode 1 would be beneficial or effective if you're looking for like a long-term romantic companion or a future spouse. You know what I'm about to say. Insert dog face here. See, now this is when I should have invited my brother to come over here, but 99.9% chance he'll probably never do a video with me. But who knows? But the biggest evidence that that's not true would be my own older brother that most of you know about, because he was the one who first encouraged me to turn my Mode 1 principles into a book. His name is Steven. And I always give him credit when I do workshops and speaking engagements, because the reason why I have my books, and particularly my very first book, Mode 1, and the reason why I have a career as a dating coach is because of my brother. Because truthfully, I never wanted a career as a dating coach or a book author. My initial career aspiration was to make it in the entertainment industry. I wanted to be a screenwriter, a filmmaker, and even before that, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a movie actor. And it was my brother, starting with the mid to late 80s and moving into the 1990s, who kept saying to me, man, you should turn that Mode 1 into a book, man. You should turn that Mode 1 stuff into a book. And I would always ignore him. And then finally, in 1995, I wrote a pamphlet called The Mode 1 Principles for Effective Verbal Seduction. Then I wrote another draft in 1996. I wrote another draft in 1997. I wrote another draft in 1998. I think 1998 was my first copyrighted draft. Then I wrote my first ebook version in 1999. And then I published my first paperback version in 2006. And then I officially decided to become a dating coach around late 2006, early 2007. because Hitch, my brother was responsible for that. The main thing that prompted me to become a dating coach was when the movie Hitch came out. When that movie Hitch came out, that's when my brother was like, man, that's you, dude. You already doing that shit. Only you not making no money off of it. But you already been giving guys one-on-one advice, man. That's what you need to be doing career-wise. And the rest is history. But anyway, my brother, he was mold one with his now wife, who he's been married to for just under 10 years. Matter of fact, they'll be celebrating their 10th anniversary in late August. He was mold one with his now wife. And his objective wasn't casual sex. Matter of fact, it was just the opposite. In his first conversation with his now wife, he told her straightforwardly, he said, I'm looking for my soulmate. I'm looking for a wife, a long-term companion. He said, I'm not looking for anything casual. Because one thing about my brother, and I've had a few friends like this. Now me, I'm probably much more hedonistic than my brother is. So I probably never get tired of casual sex. But my brother was the type of guy that once he reached the age of roughly 43, 44, I remember he told me straightforward, he said, dude, I'm tired of casual sex. He said, I don't like having sex with women that I don't have any type of emotional attachment to. They just a piece of ass. They just a walking, talking vagina. He said, that don't do anything. He said, in my 20s and 30s, he said, I enjoyed that shit. But he said, now that I'm in my 40s, he said, man, one night stands, weekend flings, that type of thing. He said, that don't do shit for me, man. He actually said, I'm telling his business, he probably gonna get mad at me. But he was like, dude, he said, I'd rather jack off to porn than to have a one night stand or weekend fling with a woman that I just don't care about her in any way, shape, or form emotionally. He said, I'd rather just jack off. I'd rather just rub one out. And I've had a few friends of mine who are older who've actually had the same sentiments towards me. Like, guys, there's a few guys I know who used to be womanizers when they were in their teenage years, their 20s, or most of their 30s. And once they reached like their late 30s and 40s, they were like, I ain't into casual sex no more. Again, I haven't reached that point. Not saying that never will happen for me, but I do still enjoy casual sex. Not that I don't enjoy relationships, but I enjoy casual sex. But yeah, my brother, he was like, man, so what he told his now wife in their very first conversation is, he said, if you're looking for anything casual, to basically like a kind of just casually kicking it type relationship, he's basically like, I'm not interested. He said, I'm looking for something meaningful. I'm looking for something long-term, something that's going to lead to marriage. And he said, she was like, damn, I ain't never had a man say that to me in the very first conversation, like ever. And so, yeah, they ended up dating for 2 years. Yeah, they started dating in early 2006. They got engaged in summer of 2007, and they got married in late August of 2008. And they've never had any problems. Like, I've never heard my brother complain. Like, some guys I know, I got who are friends of mine who are married, you know, at least occasionally I hear them say, man, marriage gets on my nerves. Or my wife get on my nerves, man. And my wife does this, I can't stand. Dude, I can honestly, sincerely say, man, my brother has never, ever, ever complained about being married. He loves marriage. I mean, like, loves it. He loves marriage. Now, he didn't get married till he was what? 47? 46, 47? He loves marriage, man. He's been married almost 10 years. I've never, literally, not one time have I heard my brother complain about something that he doesn't like about his wife or something that he just doesn't like about marriage in general. I got another friend and who lives, a good friend of mine named Maurice, who lives in Indianapolis. Same way. He's been married since 1990. I've never heard him complain about marriage, ever. Not one time. I mean, that's not to say he probably hasn't had his share of arguments and spats with his wife. You know, I've heard him have some spats with his wife about stuff to do with, you know, how they raised their two daughters and their son and that type of thing. But overall, he's never had any major complaints of being married. He loves being married. Matter of fact, he's another one who told me, he said, man, I don't like sleeping with women that I don't have any like emotional bond with. He was like, that's just not my thing, man. He was like, back in college, you know, I got into that. But he said, you know, once I got into my mid-20s, he said, I lost interest in having sex with women that I don't have any type of emotional connection with. Again, Alan Roger Currie hasn't reached that point. But my point was, Mode 1 is not solely and specifically for men who just only are in pursuit of short-term, non-monogamous casual sex. Mode 1 is for men who want long-term sex, short-term sex, monogamous sex, or non-monogamous sex. I've had each of those type of relationships. I've had long-term monogamous, not that many, at least a handful. I've had quite a few long-term non-monogamous relationships. I've had short-term monogamous, and I've had a bunch of short-term non-monogamous relationships with women. And I was Mode 1 in all regards. Mode 1 is about being upfront and straightforward with women about whatever type of relationship you want, instead of pretending that you want another type of relationship. See, anytime you're telling a woman you want a certain type of relationship, but deep down you want a totally different relationship, then you're not being Mode 1. You're engaging in manipulative head games. So, for example, if you're giving a woman the impression you want a long-term relationship, when in reality you know deep down you just want a short-term relationship, then that means you're engaging in manipulative head games. If you're giving a woman the impression that you want a monogamous relationship when you know deep down that you want a non-monogamous sexual relationship, that means you're engaging in manipulative head games. And vice versa. If you're giving a woman the impression you want short-term non-monogamous sex, when in actuality you really want a long-term monogamous relationship with a woman, that would also be representative of you engaging in misleading and manipulative head games with a woman. I don't engage in manipulative head games with a woman. I don't pretend like I want a purely platonic friendship with a woman when I know I want to date a woman or fuck a woman. I don't do that shit. But a lot of men do, because they're verbal cowards. They're verbal cowards. Plain and simple. They're verbal cowards. Anytime you're a liar, a manipulator, a cheater, or an adulterer, what it comes down to at its nitty-gritty is that you are a verbal coward. You have no balls. You have no backbone. End of story. Alan Roger Currie has concluded another lesson about Mode 1 related misconceptions and misinterpretations. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm out.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. 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 Oh. Oh. Oh.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.